one of the things that I think that we don't necessarily always appreciate because we don't get enough exposure and experience of it is that all meaningful adaptation begins with maladaptation in the beginning. In the beginning, you break a little and it's stressful. In cognitive behavioral therapy, they call it systematic desensitization. It's something that they teach in special forces, and it's something that has applications for life where you systematically expose yourself to a particular kind of stressor in order to normalize your threat response, or rather to neutralize the threat response you have to a perceived threat. I was talking about it when I was away with Daniela when we went away last week, and we're talking about in my instance how my ability to manage stress has transformed over the years when it comes to work because of continual and repeated exposure to stuff that used to stress me, which would be, for example, Temi comes with a problem, or client wants a refund, or we get a legal case against us, or there's been months where I've had to fire 50% of the team. There's been months where I've had to personally fund the company's salaries. And I've been through all of that. And it's helped me become the person I am today, where I'm able to normalize what historically was such a significant level of stress for me, that now I've reached a new peak. So there's a mountain that I sit upon in terms of what I can ultimately manage. And it's funny because one of the things that's been really interesting was that I have Garmin, because I've been going on this running journey, and it has this thing that tells me my stress levels. And it's just been really interesting to see since I've had it that it's like, yeah, your stress levels are really low. It's like you live on a beach and you chill out most of the time. And it's been just interesting to have a look at what Garmin perceives my stress response to be. And it says you live a casual and relaxed life. And what's interesting is that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, especially in the first couple of years at Pearl Lemon, my stress was massive because I had not desensitized myself sufficiently, because it was a case of exposure that was new and therefore unknown and therefore scary. But the more that you lean into ultimately these stressful periods, which is, as I said to you, Temi, if it's your first time being burnt out, you're more stressed about it being your first time than it's that you're burnt out than being burnt out itself. Oftentimes, it's the fear of the unknown that often cages us more than the experience of that thing itself, because we don't know what the outcome is going to be, and that's where a lot of people's power can come from. So it's you know, if you can normalize things like that, Nida. So if you just and we don't often do it, but if you can push yourself into places where, you know what, I'm going to message Deepak more because it scares me, and sometimes I know he's going to get frustrated with things that I say, and that's going to make my heart rate rise, and that's going to cause a cortisol spike. But if you do it enough, you will begin to adapt. You will, because you won't forever be in a stressful state. Because what happens is, like when people go through their first relationship breakup, you know, oh my God, my world's going to end. She left me. Oh my God. And then you get on the other side of it, you're like, oh, look, you're still here. You didn't fucking drop dead, did you? It's okay. And you're like, oh, you know what? I was okay. So I think that sometimes we forget lessons that we all often, not all, but very often, many of us have experienced. The first time you go through a breakup, the first time you get a shitty result on an exam, the first time you fail something, and you feel like it's the end of the world. And then you discover that on the other side of it, that, oh wow, look, I'm okay. You just dust yourself off. So be mindful of that when you capture yourself in moments saying things that are often just a function of inexperience more than anything else. It's like, oh, I feel like the world's going to end. But the world isn't going to end, bro. You're just in a bit of a new situation. So hunker down, because we all have proximate experiences. How many new situations have you been in your life? You're like, well, you know, there was that breakup, there was that issue, there was that, oh, cool. Well, you're not fucking dead, are you? You're fine. So You're still getting 3 meals a day. You still have a warm bed when you go to sleep at night. What are you worried about? It's nothing to worry about. So I think that definitely it's something that we should really be mindful of, that all adaptation begins with maladaptive behaviors in the beginning. And sometimes it's just a case of sitting in it a little bit and watching yourself come out the other side. I promise you that it's worth it.